Hi, welcome to the session on introduction to and foundations of social entrepreneurship. And so we shall be introducing social entrepreneurship as part of social economy and the citizen sector, which is also sometimes referred to as the third sector or independent sector, and then also take a look at the history of social entrepreneurship, looking at its development. So, to begin with, of course, social entrepreneurship is part of the social economy, and social economy is a hybrid sector between private and public sectors, and of course, also looking at, in most cases, focusing on amplifying the well-being of the needy and, in most cases, the marginalized groups within communities, and therefore focuses on promoting social inclusion, and also, of course, making sure that the social economic environments and communities are geared towards sustainable development. So that's mainly part of the social economy. And in most cases, of course, what we are saying is that it is the other sector. Remove the private sector, which is more business profit oriented. Remove the government, which is more public oriented in provision of services and so on, and then look at the other sector of service provision that is independent of the two of that is private and public sector. So of course the world needs social economy because there are many social challenges that are faced by many marginalized groups. Social security system is overburdened. The global issues require global solutions that start with communities rather than starting from the top. So looking for bottom-up approaches rather than top-down approaches, and of course also those other approaches that are not traditional businesses, but rather looking at what the society expects instead of focusing on profit making within the other private sector. And so that brings us to social entrepreneurship, and Bornstein and Davis define it as a process by which individuals build and transform institutions to advance solutions to social problems. But again, they look at it as a mechanism for organizing problem solving, growing solutions from the bottom up. That's what I just said earlier, through try and error. So there's some kind of action, it involves some kind of action research and action implementation, whereby certain solutions are designed and implemented for certain problems, but then within the implementation process there is some kind of learning to try and see which works in certain contexts and what does not work. Okay, so there is some kind of willingness to persevere within certain contexts to see that certain specific solutions are devised to fit certain problems. So, of course, you should know that there is no universal definition, but of course, there are some commonalities in terms of definitions. So, we have some good global examples of social entrepreneur. Of social enterprises. For instance, the basic one is Ashoka, which was founded by Bill Drayton in 1978, and of course it aims at investing in individuals who are also known as change makers, individuals that innovate solutions to tackle public problems. So a change maker in this case would be an individual who advances changes in myriad ways, and working within and between beyond existing organizations. So you can look at take a look at this mini video. I have embedded it in your in your Moodle page, but you can take a look at it and see how how Bill explains social enterprise business. So, the history of social entrepreneurship, of course, has been there since the 20th century, with the emergence of private sector and other facets of the economies, urban areas, economic growth. In the USA, of course, created new problems. So for take an example, industrialization came with pollution, and therefore pollution requires other kinds of mechanisms to handle that. And so many other problems that came with urbanization and economic growth and industrialization, and therefore organizations and individuals therefore started devising mechanisms of dealing with those problems, not through private enterprise, private businesses that are profit oriented, but also aside from public service. So these individuals come up with organizations and other innovations to solve those particular problems. So social entrepreneurship has always been there, although it has not been recognized as it should be, but it has in the previous decades gained momentum, and people are seeing the impact that social entrepreneurships can cause. So of course, also globalization, increase in freedom, and changes in political regimes have been positive, but also negative in some cases. So bringing problems such as displacements, conflicts, urban slums, poverty, and think of those or other inequalities that are there within our societies. And social entrepreneurship is developed as a movement, therefore, to address those problems. In other words, create a wider kind range of opportunities for people to improve their livelihoods. So this can happen at any time, anywhere, with any mechanisms that can fit to resolve such problems. So take an example of what is happening, for instance, in Tigray and Ethiopia, what is happening in Afghanistan right now, even in northern Uganda. Take a look at what is happening in the refugee settlements and so on. Or even in our urban areas and urban cities, in slum areas, what is happening. So think about all those problems. Those are social problems that require innovative ideas to address them. But of course, to address them, also you also need to come up with bottom-up approaches that engage community members as part of co-producers and co-creators of knowledge that can be used to make better decisions. So economic and social crises also leading to kind of a shift towards integration of profit making with social aims. So private, instead of dealing with, strictly doing private businesses with a focus on profit making, so now with so many problems, the change makers and other innovators come up with those ideas that not only focus on just making profits, but also integrating the idea within their businesses of solving other problems rather than only focusing on profit making. So Boynton and Davis give a list of factors such as, for instance, the growth of business entrepreneurship, the fall of authoritarian governments, and therefore giving freedom and liberty for civil society organizations to work. Women movements that look at focus on women empowerment and addressing issues of gender inequalities and gender-based violence, the growth of middle class, which is more of working class and so on, and of course the spread of universities, because universities can do more research and therefore further engagement of communities can help in creating those solutions. For instance, you have been involved in community engagement at the university. And such community engagement is part of finding those solutions that can help communities to regain their livelihoods, but also improve their well-being. Other factors contributing to the emergence of social entrepreneurship globally, you could take a look at porn daddy, and so the political environment that allows government to partner and work with other innovators and other change makers, the legal environment that eases experimentation. Of course, not that experimentation that takes away human rights or violates human rights, but experimentation whereby trials can be made within communities to be able to find better solutions, because we know that there is no one size fits all. For instance, what the projects that may work in one community may not necessarily work in other communities. So for purposes of finding ways of scaling up such innovations, then social experiments must be done through, for instance, randomized controlled trials to see what impacts such innovations would make on the communities. Then social environment, the presence of widespread focus on socioeconomic problems, the presence of active civil society, and of course working with other sectors, including the government and so on, and of course also the presence of institutional support of that enables organizations to grow and work well with other sectors. So therefore, we could then say social enterprise or social entrepreneurship is one of the main facets of citizen sector. The citizen sector is also known as the independent sector or the third sector, if you may. For some other authors refer to that. So when you find the third sector or independent sector, just think about the citizen sector, which is made up of non-government organizations, faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, all those organizations that are non-profit and also not public, okay, and therefore independent from the government. Of course, their independence is contested, but at least that's the whole idea, okay. So you can look at a citizen sector as that differs from private and government. So it's a landscape of organizations that address social problems on a global, national, and local scale with powerful ideas and creativity. And of course, it's on large scale and with many organizations. Think of those organizations that are in your community, that are in your country, that are trying to solve the many problems that the government has failed to solve. Health, in agriculture, in education, in empowerment and capacity building, and so on. Okay, the organizations don't only just work at local level, but also the fact that they also mobilize funds from international level and national level. They get funded by even the government sometimes. Then that makes it a global thing. They are less related to church or state. They work with businesses, academic institutions, and governments to of course to resolve the problems. Of course, indeed they experience competition, collaborations, but also they pay much attention to performance, and that is where you find most monitoring and evaluation is very key for purposes of learning and accountability within the citizen sector. And examples again, you have two successful ones from Bangladesh, the Grameen Bank, which is by Jonas. And this was started to give simple loans to the rural communities so that they can use such to be innovative and do well. But of course, not that one would ask, okay, where do these entrepreneurs get such money to do that? So some get from funding, but others, of course, with giving loans, the loans just instead of concentrating on profit making, the entrepreneurs only aim to get something little out of such enterprises to sustain the business. Later on, we are going to look at how social enterprises can be funded. Then you have Bangladesh Rural Advancement Committee, which is also commonly known as BLAC. I am sure if you checked in some of your communities or your small towns, you can find such branches of BLAC. Okay, so aiming at, of course, creating healthy communities, improving livelihoods through efficiency and results, continuous experiments, and using failures as opportunities to learn. Okay, failures as opportunities to learn. That is what I had talked earlier about social experiments. Okay, so you implement, if where you fail, you use it for learning. So that's why I also said monitoring and evaluation of the results is very key to be able to learn and about how results are affecting the communities, but also how resources can be used very well. So social enterprise is different or similar to other sectors in one way or the other. Yeah, it's a business. Yes, it's related to business, but pure businesses only aim at maximizing profit, while social enterprise does not only look at that does not look at profit making, but rather creating social change. Yes, it's related to government, but governments use top down, while social enterprises use mostly bottom up protocols and approaches to guide their implementations and designs of social enterprises. Is it related to social activism? Yes, it's related to that, but activism typically works from the outside, attempting to influence the decision makers. But yet, for social enterprises, that one works within and within larger institutions or government to collaboratively work together to create better societies. Citizen democracies, yes, it is related to that, but because they both flourish when large numbers of citizens acquire the capacity to shape civic life. Yeah, so all these facets are related to social enterprises, except that there are some characteristics that make them differ from that. Okay, so yeah, it differs from other development approaches because social entrepreneurship aims at creating innovative ventures that would later on create impact by solving the diverse categories of problems. Social entrepreneurs do not aim at creating wealth or prosperity for their own benefit, but they also aim at improving well-being of communities. So the aim is not just for a businessman. The businessman is profit-minded and individualistic in a way, but a social entrepreneur is not profit-minded and is focusing on creating better communities. Okay, So that's why that's how things work. That's how social entrepreneurship differs from other these other businesses. We are going to look at to expand this further in the next session. Okay, so bottom line is that every day, everywhere on the globe, new social enterprises are being created, improved, and scaled up to promote sustainable social change. Okay, these are some of the references you could rely on to gain more information on how social entrepreneurship has been developing over the years. Okay, thank you.